So, the Destiny beta has been out for a little while now, and I wanted to talk about the most pressing comment that has come from people who have been playing a lot of the beta, and that is that they feel like the PVE game has suffered immeasurably in the name of PvP balancing. This is a topic I am intimately aware of. I've been covering Tom Clancy's The Division for the past 12 months or more, in fact, and one of the most common threads throughout the life of that game has been the way that almost every single gear set or weapon that became popular in PvP was eventually nerfed in the name of keeping PvP balanced, and that had huge flow-on impacts to PvE, where now things have reached a state where players feel far less powerful than they ever did before, and many people simply aren't enjoying the PvE game because of this. This obviously is not a new challenge to those who play Destiny either. Things like the Vex Mythoclast really laid down the foundations for how Bungie approached this challenge. The Vex was an awesome god-tier raid drop weapon at the end of the first raid in Destiny, the Vault of Glass. It was just an awesome, amazing, cool, great, super fun weapon that everybody loved, except obviously when you took it into PvP, you would melt everybody. Bungie's response to this wasn't just to tune the weapon, but to outright destroy it altogether, and the weapon immediately became useless in both PvE and PvP, and its glory was never restored, even in the recent Age of Triumphs update, where they tried to revise a whole bunch of different gear and weapons and the like. The Vex Mythoclast still stayed really crap. There are plenty of other examples of this as well throughout the life of Destiny. The Gjallarhorn was of course nerfed into the ground, not because of PvP funnily enough, but just because it was really strong in PvE and it became a bit of a must-have. Hand cannons were nerfed, auto rifles were nerfed out of existence, fusion rifles were just like nerfed just because. Even when they didn't need to be nerfed, they just kept getting nerfed. And perhaps the worst casualty of it all, the mighty shotgun, which used to be a really viable weapon in both PvE and PvP, is now completely useless in almost both circumstances. The net effect of this is a PvP game that is far more balanced, but a PvE and PvP game that is just way less fun. When you keep taking power out of gear and weapons, the game becomes less enjoyable. We play video games because we want to feel powerful. There's a player power fantasy that we pursue when we pick up a controller or we use our mouse and keyboard, and we rely on looter shooters in particular to deliver on that player power fantasy. Destiny has failed pretty badly at keeping this player power fantasy in check throughout the life of Destiny 1, and I was very hopeful that it would fix that problem in Destiny 2, but it doesn't seem to be doing that at all. The new weapon system that's in place basically means you're carrying two primaries, and then if you want to use a shotgun or a sniper rifle, you have to put that in your heavy slot, replacing things like grenade launchers or rocket launchers, which is just kind of silly. Your abilities have very, very long cooldowns, and that's things like your grenades and your melee, and your supers take a really, really long time to recharge. Bungie have come out and said that that will change, and they are currently tweaking the numbers and making that better, but there are certain things that they will not change. I do not think they will change that weapon system that they currently have in place now. Carrying around a primary plus a shotgun or a sniper plus a rocket launcher or a sword is just great. It gives me a lot of versatility in PvE, and it's just really fun. Not being able to do that in the PvE game right now really sucks. The simplification of the talent structure within the game is also concerning, and has really sucked a lot of the depth and customization out of the game, making it a lot more casual friendly and certainly easier to balance on the PvP side because there are less variables, but again, less rewarding on the PvE side because there are less interesting builds for me to be running with. If there's anything I learned from covering The Division for the past 12 months, it's that trying to balance PvP while also simultaneously balancing PvE only ever results in a negative player experience for everyone. Because while you may achieve a more balanced PvP game, you are invariably sucking some of the fun out of PvE. Now I'm going to say something here that I know a lot of people are going to disagree with, but I fundamentally believe it to be true. The Division and Destiny are PvE focused games. They do have PvP elements, absolutely, no doubt about it, and they do have very large, active, passionate PvP communities, but they are not PvP focused games. If they were, they would have proper server architecture designed to facilitate a truly competitive experience. I'm talking things like a very high tick rate, and of course I'm talking about things like dedicated servers. They would have vastly more complex matchmaking algorithms ensuring the right competitive environment environment within each game. They would have burgeoning competitive scenes growing, like Halo does, like Rainbow Six Siege does, like so many games do. Destiny and The Division do not have this because they are not true PvP games. Most people play these games for PvE. Most people play these games to feel powerful, to just feel like they're killing enemies left, right, and center. And a lot of that feeling of power is being sucked out of these games because of the focus on PvP. Lately, I've been playing a game called Warframe, which if anyone hasn't played it and you're a fan of either The Division or Destiny, I strongly recommend you do so. And the immediate thing that struck me within this game is that while it has a PvP mode, it doesn't give a fuck about its PvP mode. It balances everything around the PvE side of the game, and the player power fantasy within that game is absolutely phenomenal. It feels incredible to be playing that game. Playing Warframe feels like playing Destiny when you constantly have your super up, and as such, I've become completely addicted to it over the last little while. Now, I'm not saying that Warframe is a better game than Destiny or The Division. I'm just saying that when it comes to its focus on PvE over PvP, it has resulted in a vastly more rewarding and engaging PvE experience because it's focused on that player power fantasy that the developers know is the true draw card of the game. Now, the suggestion here is not that Destiny and The Division should completely ignore PvP balancing. Far from it. As I've said many times as I've covered The Division, I truly believe that PvE and PvP balancing should be completely separate from each other. There should be different rules that govern how these two game modes work. And yes, I know it is not the most streamlined player experience for those who do not spend the time to understand the differences. But let's be real, I'd rather that a few people are confused by the differences between these two game modes than everyone is disappointed in how PvE feels or everyone is disappointed in how PvP feels. That feels like a pretty good trade-off to me. It would be great to see Bungie and Massive spending the time to separate these game modes better and handling their sandboxes as two separate things. Combining the two of these things never works. You will never find the holy grail where the game on the PvE side is fun and delivers interesting, varied, unexpected build combinations to deliver on a player power fantasy, while simultaneously also landing on a competitive, balanced PvP experience. It is never going to happen. No game has ever achieved this, and it's not going to happen now with Destiny or The Division. My hope is that Bungie take a good look at this and significantly increase our power in PvE to make us feel like the powerful guardians we should be. And similarly in The Division, I really hope that the developers stop the blanket nerfs across all weapons and gear sets and start more targeted nerfs that only affect PvP. Even today, in The Division, they just announced a nerf to the SASG shotgun. One of the best shotguns in the game and a fantastic weapon to use in PvE has now been nerfed because of its performance in PvP. I've had enough of that stuff. I'm just over it now because it's been happening so many times. I don't want to see Destiny 2 go down the same path that Destiny 1 and The Division has. I hope Bungie can take some big steps on this front because I love Destiny 2, don't get me wrong, but I really want to feel powerful when I play the PvE side of the game, and I don't want to have to sacrifice that for a more balanced PvP game mode. That's all I have to say about that. I'll offer some further thoughts on the Destiny beta very soon, but for now guys, thank you very much for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.